This is Josh.
Josh from New York. What's on your mind?
The same thing that I think is on everyone's mind. You know, Israel-Palestine conflict. My parents live in a West Bank settlement, and I grew up Orthodox Jewish. I left that when I was 23, and since then it's been a long, long journey of deprogramming and reprogramming. And
how old are you now?
41.
Okay.
And on my journey of self-discovery, the final personal conceit that I had to give up was Zionism. It was very deep-rooted, and it was as recently as 2021 that I really turned that particular bit around. That I think that eliminated the last little bit of regular cognitive dissonance that I find in my life on day to day. I wake up now and the world pretty much makes sense. It stinks, but it makes sense.
That's fascinating. Tell me about that process. I mean, there's got to be two different processes that are going on, and I have I have a friend who came out of like a fundamentalist upbringing, and there's still sort of like modes of thought that exist, but then there's also sort of like the content buckets of that thought. I mean, talk about like what was it that. How did you perceive? Did you perceive yourself as a Zionist per se? Would you refer to yourself as a Zionist, or just this is a set of beliefs?
Up until it became clear, like what the fundamentals of that movement of political Zionism, at least, are, I couldn't apply that label anymore. But up until that point, it was the Zionists are the heroes, right? Like that is just how it is. Zionism is the bravest of us all, you know, and that's a lot to work through. What
was it that I
just want to make clear for anyone listening. Like I'm pointing out like what I'm taught, not what I believe currently.
Right. No, of course, and I understand that. I'm older than you, but like I remember, like people go look at like a clip of Exodus with Paul Newman, and like there was a heroism, and the ideology, to the extent that there's an ideology here, there is of Zionism, has changed over the course of 140 years, let's say, that it has existed. And
frankly, Zionism has hijacked Judaism at this point. It's to the point where it's been infected by the European imperialism, and it is white European Jews that dominate Jewish culture outside and inside Israel. And there are Jewish communities all over the world that have been decimated by the actions of Israel and the eroding of the goodwill. There are arguments to be made that there are Arab Jews from around the world for 100 years who have suffered because of Israel and have been drawn to Israel because of their actions, where they have then been abused and treated as second class to the white Jews.
I certainly feel that my ability to identify and experience Judaism is under threat from Zionism in a way that I think is Absolutely. Like that I don't know, has been more sort of a latent feeling, over the past, 10 years or so, but it's obviously come more to the fore. But what was it for you in 2021 that made you...
Just the outbreak of violence at the time that I was receptive to it, most likely due to the point I was in my journey, in addition to the pandemic and isolation. That's when the violence happened. That's when I was ready to hear it.
And what kind of stuff what kind of stuff did you read or learning from? I mean, like what was, tell us a little bit about that journey. And again, I imagine there's sort of like, there's, you know, you come out of like a fundamentalist worldview. There's a lot of things that are sort of almost generic to being in that, to having that type of worldview. But then there's also sort of like the content. So I imagine your journey has involved both those things on some level.
It required me to have developed a lot of fundamental values, you know, beforehand. Like I don't believe in bad people, only broken people, for instance. You show me any antisocial action or any person that has done anything wrong, and I will find a way to define that as something is wrong with them and we should help. And I needed that and other values such as that, and I needed the framing, and I needed the pandemic, to be frank. You know, it was there. I needed that state of mind. I needed a lot, and then the violence erupted, and I was ready to see the truth for what it was. And I honestly, the final question, if you want to know like what the precise turning point was, I asked myself the question. Something came up about, you know, oh, AOC hates Israel or whatever. And I asked myself, I said, why is it that everyone who I agree with on everything disagrees with me on Israel? and I needed real answers to that. I needed to know why. I didn't need comforting answers. I needed the real answer. And the real answer was that I had been lied to, unfortunately.
What's your relationship with your family at this point?
It's fraught.
Right.
I talk to them as much as I can summon the energy to, which is bad because that's not often enough. I have never felt more alone. My entire family is either Orthodox Jewish or at least supports that worldview. And actually that's something I wanted to point out. Like, I have found Jews of every walk of life, unaffiliated Jews, conservative Jews, Reform Jews, Hasidic Jews, Haredi Jews, who are found on the right side of this issue, on the correct side of this issue. I have not found Orthodox Jews, mainstream jeans and t-shirt and pizza eating kind of Jews who had the same jobs as you and, you know, spoke the local language growing up. And the only difference is that they wear a kippah, you know, and they keep Shabbos. Like, I can't find those Jews who say the truth, who recognize that the founding of the nation, like from the first Aliyah in the late 1800s, those immigrants who were found to be mistreating the Palestinians severely from the beginning, from the start, and it has only gotten worse since then.
Why do you think? Why do you think that is? So, like, when you saying these are Orthodox that are not part of a specific sect, I mean, or they considered more modern Orthodox?
What you find, like modern Orthodox Jews, the ones who are indistinguishable from your average New Yorker, except for the fact that they've got the kippah and you can't reach them on Saturday.
Right. Those like, you find to be that's the most conservative.
Yeah, that's my people. That's who and they are, to a man, essentially have their identity conflated internally with political Zionism.
Interesting.
It's all I was fed from the start, because, like, you know, my parents are boomers, and, you know, so they were born shortly after the establishment of the state, so they got fed it, you know, very strongly, and then they passed that on.
Right. Yes, I understand that dynamic. I wonder what it is about the modern Orthodox movement that would be that would be so, you know, and again, it's only your perspective, but you're in that community. But that
there's so much generational trauma behind this, right?
Right. Yes, but that generational trauma theoretically could also exist with Reform Jews. It could exist with conservative Jews, Reconstructionist Jews.
It's how we deal with
it. Yes,
it's how we deal with it. I like to say the universe breaks us all. It's you know, how we rebuild ourselves that matters. And my community, the one that I grew up with, which I have been alienated from for so long, built themselves up into an image of what they hated, unfortunately.
Fascinating. I appreciate your sharing the story with us, Josh. Hang in there. I know particularly when people leave any type of sort of like fundamentalist type of community, there's a tremendous amount of feeling of isolation, particularly from their family.
I have relied a lot on my found family.
That's good. Well, I'm happy for you. Good luck, and thanks for calling. If you have any more thoughts, don't hesitate to call.
I appreciate your time, and everyone else's too. Thank you.
Thanks.